I'm just envisioning like the cryopod opening, the dry ice coming out, the influencer emerges.
We don't actually.
Did someone say long form content?
Hey, Forrest, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Question for you. You have a dog, I believe?
I have a small dog. Yes, he is a miniature Australian Shepherd.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Technically a toy, or not technically a toy, because I don't think they come in a toy size, but he's like 12 pounds. He's very small.
That is teeny.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Does he ever try and herd you?
Well, interesting thing he'll do is if he hears a child crying outside, it doesn't even have to be one of my children. It can be like a child down the street. He'll get very excited and upset. He'll come running into the house. He'll want us to go out and deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So he has some sort of like protective instinct, but he's a little small, I think, to think he can realistically hurt us.
Interesting. Okay. So he just doesn't...
I mean, kind of like we talked about on a previous episode, all dogs today that are meant for actual jobs and instead of just being pets have terrible neuroses. And
I know.
They're in the middle of just a constant identity crisis, so I don't think he knows who he is or what he wants to be.
Who he is or what he wants to be.
Yeah. What about your dogs? Do they herd you?
I have two dogs. They're both doofuses. One is named Walter. Named by my daughter. She insisted that his name be Walter.
I love it.
He appears, both of my dogs are adopted, so I never know what kind of breed they are. But he appears to be like part husky, part Irish Wolfhound. He's
Oh, wow.
He's a model of a dog. He's just very handsome. But he's an idiot. And I don't know if you've ever seen huskies like move around. They just...
Don't they say like either you give
dumb.
huskies an interesting problem or they become an interesting
Yeah,
problem?
exactly. The most novel thing about Walter is he can clear a 6-foot fence. So he'll just hop on over. So I have, it's hideous. I have stapled chicken wire to my fence. It looks like a sad Soviet prison. Exactly, in my backyard.
Wow.
And then my other dog, Archie, is a little asshole. He's a small dog, but thinks he is the ruler of all.
Don't all small dogs?
They really, really do.
Okay, so we build a lot of influencer marketing campaigns at Freeman&Forrest.
We do.
A lot, for a lot of different sizes of companies, usually who are talking to a technical audience. Where do you start?
This is so interesting because this is another conversation we have a lot with folks who are, talking to us and they're interested in influencer marketing and they like want to kind of dig in and figure it out. And what they can't kind of conceptualize is it sounds good. I think it could be effective. I follow these people, but like, how do you actually build this? And they kind of want to know where our secret sauce is. And the secret sauce is like extreme tailoring of a campaign to a brand and a product. I think that is really like, where it has to start. Because to your point, the needs of a startup are going to be wildly different than the needs of, a Microsoft. And they just require different kinds of things. And it's not just about budget. It's actually about like the voice of the brand, the influencers we would choose and utilize, like whether short form or long form content is the best. But
a big part of that I feel like has to be then setting that proper expectation with the brand themselves, right? Because we have so many people come into us and they either think they're Microsoft and they're not, or they are Microsoft and they think they're not, like both of those are different things you've got to work with. One of the things that I really struggle with at times is we will, you'll see messaging that comes out from a brand and you're like, who approved this? How did anyone think this was something interesting?
Yeah.
How did anyone think this is something that would land with the audience? And usually when you see that, the answer is not, well, the people that work at this brand are stupid and don't know what they're doing.
No, that's
almost
never it.
always individually they're very good at what they do. And so you're usually seeing a broken corporate process that's manifesting itself, right?
Very much so.
So you and I have talked a lot about the fact that influencers are able to say things the brand can't.
Yeah.
And by that we actually don't mean they will say things that are like meaner or funnier than the brand can say. We mean they say things that the brand literally from a process perspective cannot marshal its resources in order to be able to say. Right? So just the same as you'd hire any other agency, you hire influencers to do things, because you're mired in too many layers of bureaucracy to make it happen.
It's true. It's very, very true. Okay, so when you think about selecting influencers for a campaign, whether it's that startup or the behemoth, how do you think about like going about that? What are the sort of qualities that you believe make someone a good match for a brand?
It's so funny that you asked that question because we were having a conversation with an analyst a week or two ago who asked us a very similar question. But we actually get that question less frequently from the brands themselves than you might think. And I think that the closer you are to the product and to the problem, the more you just feel like I'll know it when I see it.
Oh, interesting.
You know, I'll know it when I see it. And so when we run a lot of campaigns, we end up feeling like we have a lot of prior art.
Yes.
For a lot of these stories that we're telling. So, for example, if we're working with a cybersecurity company and they have a story that they're telling that's very specifically around, I don't know, like, you know, backups, right? Or it's cybersecurity, but it's really for the platform engineering ops audience, right? Like, we know there are 15 people out there who are really, really great at telling that story, and they love to build and play around with those things, and they have strong opinions about them. And those are the folks that we will go to. We will also go and, you know, we will headhunt folks across the influencer landscape as well. And it's, you know, one of the reasons I think it's helpful to work with an agency that does that full time is that we have the resources to do that. Like, you don't necessarily want to build an in-house influencer sourcing agency that just goes and, you know, knocks on doors and is like, excuse me, do you like cybersecurity?
That sounds expensive. It's just inefficient.
Yeah, right. You want to kind of corral that expertise in one place and have it work for you at scale. But I think it comes down to, a combination of looking at folks that we trust already.
Yes.
And then mixing in carefully some people, right? You're always going to have outliers for plus and minus when you do an influencer campaign.
Yeah, I would say that's the big pool of folks that we consider. So that's a good point. We do. I have a belief that influencers should be jalapeno hot, not ghost pepper hot. I think, you know, I'm very protective of the brands we work with, and I never want an influencer to damage a brand. And so there are some influencers who are very spicy, and they get a great amount of views.
Yes.
But their content is rife with risk. And that it's enough of a liability that we generally do not work with them.
I would love to know what you mean by spicy, because often what I see is it's not even so much spicy as in like they'll come in hot and say something that damages the brand. They're just really careless. Right? Like that's the biggest thing that we have an issue with.
I would say that's 80%. I would also say I've definitely seen folks kind of turn on brands, like either the sponsorship ends or like they decide they don't like them for whatever reason. Right. And we all have like, tech is very small when it comes down to it. We all have feelings about companies and people. But I think there's like a professionalism. If you are a content creator, and that is, especially if it's your full-time job, you know, approaching this with care, kindness, and respect is super important.
Yeah, and to be clear, the vast majority of the influencers out there are great, and they get this, and they do a wonderful job. So it's relatively rare that we have to take someone who, in all other respects, seems like they'd be a good fit and be like,
it's
no,
like
we don't want
5 to 6 people, you know?
Right.
Teeny tiny. But yeah, so I think like that's the qualifier for the broader thing. I think when I think about actually matching specific influencers with brands, audience size is part of it, but not as much as I originally would have thought. Because audience size doesn't necessarily translate to even impressions. You know, you would think, and sometimes like it is, but not necessarily at the same level. So someone with 5,000 followers could have 4,000 impressions, and someone with 50,000 followers could also have 4,000 impressions.
Exactly.
Like there's a difference there. I think how they kind of perform, not just with impressions, but engagement and clicks. I find influencers generally excel at one of those things. And so when we tailor outcomes, you know, different companies want different things for different products. And making sure we have that end outcome in mind and tailor it all around that is key. So we'll select influencers based on those kind of outcomes. Obviously, technical specialty or area of expertise is critical. You know, I'm not going to put a cybersecurity expert in for, you know, AI unless it is a twist on cybersecurity.
Isn't it all?
Exactly.
Like everything's AI flavored.
Everything is AI flavored. Let's see, what else is there?
Well, I mean, you know, as you were describing how we select influencers, or really more specifically how we select outcomes for influencers, it just made me think, often we'll have a brand come to us and they either don't know what they want at all in terms of outcomes, or they have a really specific outcome need that maybe is not that well aligned with what influencers are good at doing.
Yes.
So for example, they might come in and say, hey, like we're the demand gen team, and what we need to do is we need to drive 50 demo requests for a product that has no PLG mode promotion.
Yeah.
You know, and it literally, you're just trying to get people who've never heard about this product to say, yes, I would like to book an hour of my time and have someone explain it to me.
Yeah. If
right?
there's no sort of developer landing spot,
How
it's
do
not
you
a
talk people from there to a reasonable outcome?
Yeah, well, and I think this is one of the things that we kind of do that's a little different than some other folks. Like when we meet with folks, we will give feedback on a sort of product marketing, messaging standpoint as far as strategy. Like this is what we feel you need. We've definitely told potential clients, hey, I don't think you're ready for influencer marketing, which is always an interesting response. Like, you don't want my business. It's like, no, it's just you're not there yet and we don't want to waste your money. And so, you know, having those kinds of conversations and helping people get set up for that is super important. But
super important to do. I think as you look at maybe back to the end where people just don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, I think, on some other episodes of the show. Often we find that it's better to start with a goal. Even if you're not sure it's going to be the long-term goal, right? And then you can kind of get more mature from there. Often we will optimize sometimes for awareness metrics.
Yeah.
So you were talking about impressions, even some like first-level conversion metrics, like a click-through to a landing page.
Yeah.
And we'll just blow those numbers out of the water. And then we will have people internally at the company and leadership be like, well, what's that getting us, right? Well, I'm glad you're asking that now, because a month ago you didn't know what you wanted, right?
No, it's true. You know, like, yes, exactly. Just selecting something helps us kind of see, because then you just measure and we track across all of these kind of metrics, not just for that specific campaign, but we always like to check in, is this influencer performing at the same level they are at this particular brand that they have in the past across all our campaigns?
It's actually why we've stopped doing really, really short pilots.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Because you just don't see the momentum.
No, there is so little that you're going to be able to glean, positive or negative, from like 1 month of any kind of marketing campaign.
Oh, yeah.
You have to give a little room to run, and you have to be able to tune it.
Yes. And I think the thing with specifically B2B, because so many people think of influencer marketing as B2C, which has an immediate outcome.
Yes.
An approvable outcome. Much of B2B is multiple touch points. And so you really have to look at your internal metrics of, okay, is usage or expansion or adoption rising across? Is share of voice across platforms rising? Are more and more people talking about it? It's like this is what you kind of see on that lift, but that lift takes a moment to get off the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another influencer strategy question. I feel like we have a lot of people come to us and say, hey, what we want to do is we want to find the 5 biggest fans of our product.
Yeah.
And we want to turn them into kind of long-term, almost like freelancers for us, where all they do is celebrate our product.
Yes.
How do you approach that conversation?
I think if that's the goal, you should hire those people.
Interesting.
That's for me where like you should have a developer relations team or a community program. And so I think those are the flavors. That is different than reactivating an influencer that you think has a lot of impact for your brand or product and who is able to kind of keep things fresh. I see this more in long form content versus short form. And so by that, I mean like, you know, a short tweet from someone is radically different than a, 20-minute YouTube video diving into a product. That is where the latter is where you really want to kind of like re-engage with folks.
When you said reactivating them on long form content, I'm just envisioning like the cryopod opening, the dry ice coming out, the influencer emerges.
We don't actually.
Did someone say long form content?
Yes, exactly. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. But that, like, you can re-engage folks. But if you want someone to just be a fan of you, and I think this is also about exclusivity. You know, a lot of people want
that
exclusivity.
Is often what it is, yes. We want to take them off the market. Right?
Yeah, and you got to hire
just
them.
ours. Yeah, because if at some point you lose all the benefit of them being independent if they're exclusive to you.
Absolutely. Right? And I will also say most influencers do not offer exclusivity, and if they do, it's a day.
Yes, yeah, they have businesses to run.
Yeah,
right. You are never going to be able to be better for their brand as an exclusive relationship than having a whole raft of amazing people that they work with. And honestly, it's better for you too, for their audience to continually hear, and I mean you, the brand, to continually hear from a mix of sponsors and fresh messaging, right? Because it gets old and there's diminishing returns if you only ever hear about this one company.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and then I think the last few things I'd say is, when you're thinking about building a campaign, understanding that influencer marketing is part of a larger marketing strategy is really key. It is not the replacement for whatever else you're doing.
Yes.
I think like paid placements, it can replace more than some other things, but you still need to do, your brand needs to be producing content. You need to have the kind of voice of the actual brand still producing things. But as far as influencers, like, it does such a great drive to new audiences and things like that. And I would say most influencer audiences are a mix. We often have people come and say, like, well, I only want to target leaders. And, generally speaking, there aren't influencers who only speak to leaders. It's always going to be a mix. And so we can definitely speak to those that we know have a larger mix of leaders and kind of are weighted in that capacity.
Yes.
But it's almost never exclusive in that way.
It's in tech especially. I feel like we found that subject credibility is so much more durable and such a better predictor of success than supposed audience exclusivity.
Definitely, yeah.
Often you see people that say, well, we only talk to business leaders.
Yeah.
And usually their job title is something like futurist.
Yes. It's a theme.
Yes.
No, it's totally true. Yeah, I think that's how you build a great influencer campaign. There's obviously more, like we could talk on and on, but
we may have to do a part 2 of this episode. I'm going to ask you one more question before we finish up, which is, what is an example of an influencer collaboration you've seen a brand do where you just really love it? You say, I wish everybody got how to work with an influencer in that way.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of, obviously everything we do is.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be one of ours. Right?
No, I know. I'm trying to think through how I would go about that. Do you have someone that comes to mind?
The first one that comes to mind is what Kent Beck has done with Augment Code.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Kent is amazing. He does all sorts of, how many years has he been doing like high-level software engineering leadership type of content, right? He's very, very credible in that space. He's written O'Reilly books on it.
Yeah.
And he loves Augment Code. He's a personal fan of that brand.
Which is the best.
It's great. To the point where I was looking at his personal website the other day, and he has come up with this term of art. I want to say it's augmented decoding.
That's awesome.
Is what he calls it.
Yeah.
It's his description for how he feels when he's using AI alongside his work as an engineer. And I don't think it's something Augment Code asked him to do.
No, it's
not a
organic.
co-branded thing.
Yeah.
But it's spilled over into this amazing organic relationship outside of some of the paid work that they've done with him. So that shows me two things. One, like perfect match.
Yeah.
Of influencer
Yes.
and product. Number two, the product itself is obviously great.
Yeah.
If it gets someone as good as Kent Beck
Yes.
to almost reorient his own way that he presents himself publicly
Yes.
around this product.
Definitely.
That is when you found gold.
Yes,
right?
it's so true. No, that raises a good point too, because we are actually not agents for influencers. I think a lot of people think of us as, because we are an influencer marketing agency, they think that we represent influencers, and we don't.
Right.
We don't have a roster of influencers that we kind of have to place, and we're not a group that only brings, a few dozen folks to each brand.
Yes.
We represent the brand, and we book influencers based on the brand. And one of the key kind of elements at the start of that is confirming with the influencers that they like the brand.
Exactly.
We won't actually book folks who are like, this isn't a good fit.
No, we've had influencers turn down brands before. We respect that.
We love that.
We'll bring other opportunities to them as they help us understand what they need. It really makes me think that this episode needs to end because I forgot what I was going to say.
We'll fix it in post.
All right. Great discussion. Thanks as always.
Thanks. Thank you for joining another episode of Velocity. I'm Emily Freeman with my co-founder, Forrest Brazil. We'd like to thank our producers, Britton Noel and Tyler Freeman, for making this an incredible experience. We love it when you engage with our content, so please do like and share. It really helps. And let us know if you'd like to hear about a specific topic. Thanks so much.